But when the crowds heard it, they followed him on foot from the towns. I want to talk today, want to share with you about this desolate place, a desolate place. If you could put it on the screen for me, the word desolate means deserted of people, bleak, a state of dismal emptiness. Deserted of people, bleak, a state of dismal emptiness. There will be moments in our lives where our situation seems bleak. It seems like this is a situation that it's empty, it's void. And I'm not really seeing what I want to see in this moment. There are places in our lives that may seem like these desolate places. But what I have learned is that it's in the desolate places that God does some of his greatest work. And you might feel like today, or you might have felt like last week or during this week, that, man, I'm going through a time, sister, I'm going through a moment. I have a situation, I have things that are due and things that are not working and not coming together like I want them to. And you might feel like you're in a dismal and a bleak situation. But I'm here today to tell you that it's in a desolate place is where God does some of his greatest work. He does some of his greatest work in the moments where you might feel like there's no way that I can come out of this. There's no way that I can get over this. There's no way that I'm going to be prosperous and successful through this. He actually started it out in the beginning of his word. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. It tells us that the earth was without form. It was void, meaning there was nothing there. It was a desolate place. It was empty. It was void. It was a dismal place. And God took where there was nothing and he spoke, and then there became, and then there became, and then there became. God will take our desolate places to reveal his glory and to manifest the greatness of his kingdom. And if we're not careful, what we will allow to happen is the situation around us to dictate to us how we feel and how we think about what God is doing in that moment. But God is teaching us that I am going to use your desolate place to reveal some of my greatest work so that I will receive the glory. And we'll see this in this story, is that one thing is that Jesus, when he heard this, he withdrew to the desolate place. And then it says that the crowds heard it. They followed him on foot from the towns. And then go down to verse 14. When he went ashore, he saw a great crowd, and he had compassion on them and healed their sick. And in verse 15, now when it was evening, the disciples came to him and said, this is a desolate place, and the day is now over. Send the crowds away to go into the villages and buy food for themselves. And in verse 16, but Jesus said, they need not go away. You give them something to eat. And in verse 17, they said to him, we have only 5 loaves here and 2 fish. And he said, bring them here to me. Then in verse 19, then he ordered the crowds to sit down on the grass, and taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, he looked up to heaven and said a blessing. Then he broke the loaves and gave them to the disciples, and the disciples gave them to the crowds. You can put that up there. And in verse 20, and they all ate and were satisfied, and they took up 12 baskets full of the broken pieces left over. And in verse 21, our final verse here, and those who ate were about 5,000 men, besides the women and the children. So many of you may already know this, but just in case you didn't know it, it wasn't just 5,000 people who ate, 5,000 men, plus children and women. And if you can't even wrap your head around this, right? You can't, 5 loaves and 2 fish. We got a lot of Panera bread out there, right? We got a lot out there. We're so thankful for all of you. We have a few people here who have dedicated their time on Friday night and Saturday night to pick up from Panera Bread. We have a partnership with Panera, the Panera Dough Nation program, DOUGH, Dough Nation program that they have, the partnership we have with them. We pick up from them on Friday, and then on Saturdays we go and deliver it to families or communities, to shelters, to people, individuals, to volunteer fire departments. We've delivered it. If you want to be a part of it, we need more help. So if you want to be a part of that. But I want to say this, as all the bread we have out there, I don't know if we can feed 5,000, Rob. I'm not sure. What my point to that is, it's hard to wrap your head around 5 loaves of bread, 5,000 men, women, and children. How many know that that's a miracle? How many know that's a miracle? It's a miracle. And the awesome thing about it is that the miracle took place in a desolate place. The miracle took place in a place where you would at least expect, you know what, God, right now things are just really rough. I don't like my job. I don't like my coworkers. I'm not making enough money. Everything that's coming in is going out. You know, family's acting crazy. Money's acting funny. Cousins acting like dozens. I don't know what rhymes with cousins, but all of that. You got all these things going on, and it's like, God, I'm in this desolate place. But God says, I do some of my greatest work in desolate places. And I'm not going to go into a whole like Bible history on it. I'm going to allow y'all to take the time and do it, to go and to research and to study. Where are some other places where God did some amazing things in desolate places? Because I just began to think about there's so many. I can't really even go into all of them, but there's so many instances where you see someone like a Jacob who wrestles with God. He was in a desolate place. And you see somebody like an Elijah who was by a brook that had run dry. And then God caused the ravens to come to feed him while he was there. There's like Jacob, you know, when he saw the ladder. I could go on and on about people who were in desolate places, and in the desolate place where there was nobody else around, where it was dismal, where the situation looked the most bleak, God showed up in an amazing, amazing way.